fashion. It has now become the order of the day. That the final person does not benefit. Thank you, Madam Speaker, but I would love that just add me only 2 minutes as I finish.
Honorable Gladys, the justification was sufficient enough. Yes. So,
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Yes, as we had already an amendment in the rules of procedure, we are just going to open up the House for debate. I would love to see people who have not yet submitted or said anything. Yes, youth leader, because this really affects youth school leader. It usually affects school students, so it's important to give them audience to be able to offer viable solutions. Please let us recommend resolutions and not lament.
Thank you, Madam Honorable Speaker, for the chance granted. My name is Emmanuel from Mahai Seed Secondary School. I'm here to talk about the motion which says to increase the education budget allocations for education in Eastern Uganda. Once the education budget is increased, this will help the school to run activities which are going to help with the youth, most especially new curriculum students with new curriculum activities. The government is buzzing only on schools in Western region, not Eastern region also, because right now a child in a secondary school, when he or she enters a new curriculum, he or she should come out when it's having any skill, but we have limited things. Now, in new curriculum, they may teach you how to make cakes, but the things to use, they are not there. So, once this education budget is increased, the schools, the Ministry of Education will be able to provide enough money to the schools to carry out these activities, and this will reduce on people, on the youths who just sit at home and they will admire to come to school because they are seeing their friends are learning something. Because right now, a student may say, even if I don't go to school, we are going to be the same. Reason why we are not just acquiring knowledge, but not practicals. So once the government supports this, once the government supports, increases the education budget, should be able to run, the schools will be able to run its activities. Once the education budget is increased in Eastern Uganda, this reduces on illiteracy number of youths in the areas. As one of our honorables came here and said, we have few structures, most especially rural schools. So a person or a child comes at school and finds a Honorable Speaker, I beg for 1 minute.
Student leader, 30 seconds.
Okay, thanks very much. Once this budget is increased, the schools will be able to set up some structures which will cater for students to have enough seats, whereby other people also will come to school, because some people say, even if I go, I'm going to lack where to sit, but when the structures are enough, they will come. So our idea is, if they are taken to the government, it will say that we don't have money, but my solution is, let the government reduce on the number of ministers or reduce on their salaries. This money which is given to ministers, let it be, let the government reduce on their salaries and put this money in education sectors in order to reduce on high rates of criminals, because we know the youths, we are the ones who commit them, but what's causing all that? We're not going to school. We say very well that Kenya, it reduced, but the activities are going to be remaining running. We have a number of MPs in government. Now, like our region here, Bungoho, it was divided 3 times. I request that if the government can be able to bring it back and to be only 2 times, Bungoho South and Bungoho North, the money which will be given to the MOP of Bungoho Central, it will be brought to the Ministry of Education. Thanks very much.
Thank you for your wonderful submission. Honorable Kipea.
A very good afternoon, honorable members. My name is Chipea Dennis, a youth leader in Bugisu sub-region, coming from Bududa district. I raise to talk about the motion that states urging government to increase the education budget allocations for education in Eastern Uganda. Members, I want to give a living testimony. I happen to be a former student leader. I have served at the National Executive Committee of the Uganda National Students Association, an umbrella body that unites all students in Uganda, starting from secondary schools to universities and tertiary institutions. While I was serving as a National Executive Committee, member of the Uganda National Students Association, we had an engagement in Kumi. That was in 2022. I landed on a teenage mother with about 3 kids. Imagine, I don't know at what age this young girl gave the first birth. She gave us her story, and it was so touching. Luckily enough, she had struggled her best and got back to school, irrespective of the challenges she was going through. But now imagine, this is a teenage mother struggling to pay her own school fees. The time we met her, she was in senior 3. Imagine, senior 3. The firstborn and the secondborn had also started schooling. The father to the kids is nowhere to be seen. She has to struggle on her own, find her own tuition, and find tuition for the young kids. This story was so touching. We tried our level best as UNSA. We raised school fees for this young girl for senior 3, senior 4, senior 5, and senior 6. Surprisingly, when we did that, so many young girls started contacting UNSA. This is one, so I mean, this district, I have a challenge, but within our means as UNSA, we couldn't help all these students. So I am raising to pose a question to you, honorable members, that do we really have free education in Uganda as the government states? Because I have been to government schools where they are paying tuition worth 1 million plus. And it's a government school. They receive funding from the government. Everything is paid in that school by the government. Even slashing of the compound is paid by the government. So where is this 1 million being charged per student doing in this school? Do we really have free education in Uganda? Thank you. I beg for 30 seconds to conclude. So my solution is, I want to urge the government.
I have not yet decided on the point of increasing you more time or not.
But sorry.
Given the fact that it's so captioning, I'm just giving, please let it be 30 seconds.
Thank you. I want the solution to be, can government make free education be free in reality? Because if we have these young girls in schools, then we are going to reduce on the rate of teenage pregnancies. And I don't mind. So if we are in schools, I believe we are going to cut down the rate of teenage mothers. I beg to submit.
So, honorable members, I think we get to understand that motion 7.2 is very pertinent to this house. So, just one more, yes. And then we move to the next motion. Because I am finding that they are still linking the education budget back to the concept of teenage mothers. So let's just have one more person and close that motion.
Thank you once again, Right Honorable Speaker. Upper the Truth is my name, representing Northern Division, Mbale City. According to the recently passed budget, there was an increase from 52.7 trillion to 72.1 trillion, which means this budget caters for all the government sectors, education inclusive. And this represents an increase by 36% from the previous budget. I think the issue here may not necessarily be to increase the budget allocations for education, but rather, where is the money going? The government should at least try to follow up. I don't think the government can just leave the education sector without allocating funds, but where are the funds being allocated going? I think we should zero down to corruption. If the money is being allocated, I am very sure the money is allocated, but where is the money going? Let the government first zero down to corruption, find out where this money is going before we increase the money, because we are going to increase, but then still the corrupt officials are going to swindle the money. So some of the things the government would rather do is to put strict rules on how this money is being spent, or follow up whether the money is being spent appropriately, rather than to just increase without knowing how the money is being spent. I beg to submit.
Thank you for that wonderful submission. Honorable members, this is a pertinent issue which I've told you still is revolving down around the same motions. Please, let's pass a vote. So, a vote to adopt the motion to increase the education budget allocations for education in Eastern Uganda. Those in favor say aye, those against say nay. The ayes have it.
Thank you so much. Motion 7.4, motion to urge government to invest in solutions that mitigate the effects of climate change in East Africa. Mover, Honorable Ramutogo Shamira.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, Honorables at large. Moving this motion, urging government to invest in solutions that mitigate the effects of climate change in East Africa. My name, I'm Ramtoga Shamira. I'm a youth councillor, Kamonkoli. I'm representing people living disabled people with disability. I'm moving a motion urging government to invest in solutions that mitigates the effects of climate change in East Africa. Madam Speaker, climate change in Eastern region, we have problems in Eastern region with climate change, whereby government, they don't support us. Like in Budadili, we face a problem of floods, people, people like in Budadili, they face a problem like rainfall in their homes. I'm sorry.
Yes. It's okay. Let her take her time.
Yeah. People in those ends, like Budadili, they face a problem of floods in their houses. Properties, they are destroyed, so no one can help them. And climate change affects people in eastern region, like agriculture. In agriculture, floods destroy their food, crops, etc. Thank you.
Actually,
Yeah. Thank you.
she can't
Thank-
hear. She can't hear the steps. Just flower like this. She cannot hear the steps, please. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Honorable Shamira. We really appreciate. Kindly, could we have seconders of that motion?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I stand here to second the motion. Thank you.
But you didn't introduce yourself and where you're coming from. It's very important for my clerk to take note of that.
My name is Ayub Chirinya, youth leader in Mbale City.
Mr. Obliged.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. By the names, I'm called Wepo Krabne, Youth Leader, Manafa District. I'm here to second the motion, which is in the House now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Shamira. The floor is up yours for justification.
Do you feel comfortable?
Hmm?
Do you feel comfortable?
Yeah. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I'm here to move the motion. Sorry. Sorry. I come. Thank you. In eastern Uganda, we face a climate change affects agriculture, infrastructure, and human lives. Climate solution reduces distance risk and improve resistance. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. And so let us open this motion for debate to the House. Yes, Honorable Edono.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. My name is Emmanuel Edonu, and I'm from Sorority. And I stand here on the motion to urge the government to invest climate change mitigation solutions in eastern Uganda. Whereas we all know that this is one of the most significant problems we are facing as a country, and in particular, Eastern Uganda has been facing the severe beat of climate change. Look at the landslides, look at the different floods happening in different areas, look at the drought that is hitting different ends of the eastern districts. So you realize that it has posed a very big threat on our infrastructural development. It has posed a very big threat on food insecurity. Now, what must government do? Government needs to invest on climate mitigation and adaptation solutions and initiatives, such as early warning systems. For example, we have mudslides that keep on happening this side of Mbale region, districts of Bududa. If we have these systems in place, we'll be able to take care of our people, as the motion was justified by my honorable, talking about loss of lives, talking about property, and among others. If we have these early warning systems in place, we'll be able to safeguard life and protect the communities from such a diverse catastrophe that keeps on hitting us. Also, we need to look at crops that can resist climate change, because we have realized that as we live today, the weather patterns have changed. Gone are the days where we knew that this is the season where we plant A, B, C, D, and this is the season that we plant so and so. Now, when we have such crops that are resistant, regardless of the time factor or the period when someone plants them, they will be in position to thrive, and this will boost food security. So climate change is a very big issue, not only affecting Uganda, but it's also affecting the nation, it's affecting the continent, and it's affecting the world. And I urge each and every one of us that we need to stand up, because this is amongst the sustainable development goals that we have. Only 30 seconds, Madam Speaker.
Rejected.
All right, thank you.
Your point has been put across, I believe. It has really been put across. Is that a hand right there behind? Yes. Yes, let's have a lady.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity given. I've come to give solutions for the motion that is passed. I am called Mugala Electina, an activist from Palisa. I would urge the government to develop green infrastructure projects, including afforestation and creation of green belts to enhance carbon to enhance the increase of carbon in the air. That will enable the air to clear up for of us. As individuals or as an activist and members in Palisa, we have embarked in engaging the community in planting trees, and we did it last year, and we were able to plant very many trees that the district came up and managed to support us and took up with the project. We also want to sensitize, it's all about sensitizing the community as a whole on the dangers and effects of deforestation. Because if you don't tell them the effects of deforestation and what it causes, if you cut down a tree, what will come out of that? Obviously, they will continue doing that, which will continue bringing that problem of climate change. And you'll say the government should help, but when as the community, we have not yet gone ahead to sensitize our other fellow members to know the dangers and reduce on that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes, I'm still getting lost with minutes. Yes, let me have, yes, Honorable Member. Let him come first, then you come next.
Thank you so much, Honorable Speaker. By name, I'm Ochole Abraham. I come from Bukedia District, and I'm a social movement activist. I'm here to elaborate on the motion that has been put forward that states that to urge government to invest in solutions that mitigate the effects of climate change in eastern Uganda. Mine is very clear and categorical here that government should have, we urge government to have clear resolutions on how it is evacuating people from wetlands. We as young people, we need to come together and revisit on the resolutions that our government has passed knowingly or mistakenly. We see our own people being sent out of wetlands without clear resolutions where these people are going to be placed. Remember, population itself is an effect to climate change. Because if the population that, say for instance, that has been evacuated from wetlands has been sent to, let's say, forested area, what do you expect will happen to that forest? It will be cut down. Therefore, government should think, and the citizens of Uganda should re-look into the issue of how people are living the swamps. Secondly, not forgetting how government is leaving behind the food value and the industrialization aspect. These are all things that move in line with climate change. We, as people of Eastern Uganda, we basically have different categories of food that we grow. In Teso, people mostly grow cassava. But how has government, amidst the climate changes, put value on cassava? In Bugisu, people grow banana and coffee. How has government thought of putting value in coffee and its products amidst the challenges that we are facing in climate change? Therefore, I call upon all youth to join social movements and stand with the rest of the communities that are oppressed to make sure that we put government in check and we come up with serious resolutions on climate change. I beg to submit. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Yes, Honorable Rashid. But I would like to give opportunity to some people who have not spoken something. At least it's important, it's inclusivity. Yes, student leader. But you were supposed to come next.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. For me, actually, what I want to say, this motion is good, but I thought all of us here, we are the government. Now, if you say that the government should do this and this, let us practice all those methods which can improve on our climate change so that it can be reliable in every condition. We don't look at the government because for us we are the government. And let us be exemplary to others. Let's do those things in our villages so that others can see on us. Always they say that we Africans, we believe by seeing. If you practice something and your fellow sees you, he will also practice it. But if you just talk about it, but for you don't practice it, he or she will not practice it. So I just beg that all of us here, let us practice all the things so that our fellows might see on us, not by just talking about them. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Is it Joshua? Yes, Honorable Member.
Thank you, Honorable Right Speaker of the East Parliament, Eastern Uganda. Good evening to everyone. Good afternoon to everyone here. By name, I'm called Mbale Muhammad, Youth Advocate Mbale. I'm here the motion which is going on. According to our climate, we are not supposed to blame the government. We are supposed to blame ourselves before we blame the government. Because those years back, we had the sub-county chiefs. When you are going to cut the tree, they talk. You have to talk about that chief before you cut the tree. But for us, in our generation here, we wake up just in the morning, we just cut the tree, such that we destroy our climate. So I beg, before you beg the government, I beg you who are here, we be the example to the generation. We tell our friends, our youth who are outside there, that before you cut the tree, first plant another one like 5 before you cut one. So we shall keep our environment. When we do like that, I beg, submit.
Yes, point of information.
Good afternoon once again. Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker, and the House at large. And I would like to inform this House, first and foremost, when we talk about the government, yes, this is something that comes from a principle called the social contract. When we have a social contract, we agree that we as citizens, we are going to sacrifice our rights. We are going to, not our rights, we are going to sacrifice certain things to a certain group of people called the government. And in return, that government is supposed to protect certain rights and it is supposed to provide certain services. Basically, that is what that is what they call the social contract. So when you have the social contract, there are certain things that we expect the government to do. Today we have a motion in front of us, and that is that is something called climate change. Now, when you talk about climate change, there are certain things that we're supposed to look at. Even before we talk about the effects, we're supposed to look at the causes, you know. Some of the causes of climate change that we have today are things such as people encroaching on wetlands. For example, when you talk about Limoto wetland, you know, which is in my area where I come from, that is Chibuku district, and the landslides in Bududa, the government has a responsibility to make sure that they give us alternative solutions to some of these issues. For example, the reason as to why someone is going to go and cut down trees is first and foremost to make charcoal so that they can sell and be able to get money to get livelihood. Secondly, the reason as to why I buy charcoal is because I do not have the alternative solution, you know, or the alternative solution that is there, which is gas, has not been made so much available to me. So when you talk about the government, we talk about the fact that the government has a responsibility, you know, to help us, because we sacrifice these things to them through taxes, you know, through voting them into power each and every term. So they have that responsibility to make sure that some of these things do not happen, which frankly speaking, they have not done. So when you talk about the government, we're not saying that we're neglecting our role, our social responsibility as people, but we are also putting the government in check because they have a higher power in doing some of these things. Thank you very much. I beg to inform the House.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for that. Was that a point of order or? No, it's like I had a point of order. Okay, it's okay. So basically, I beg, I think we've made sufficient submissions to this motion. And we have exhaustively done it as it's supposed to be. So I beg that we make a vote on this motion. Yes. Is that a point of order? But it is important, I know I have ruled, but if it's a point of order and we're in jeopardy, it's important he raises it. Okay, thank you so much. So I'm making, we are going to make a vote on this. So we make a vote on, as this August House, we want to make a vote on a motion to urge government to invest in solutions that mitigate the effects of climate change in eastern Uganda. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. And I think this is our last motion. Okay, I want to thank you, honorable members. This is our last motion on our order paper. Do we agree? Yes. Yes, this is our last motion on our order paper. We had 3 motions to adopt, and this House has really adopted them. So I want to take this opportunity to welcome my clerk to make a review on the resolutions for the parliamentary session. And I want to thank you also for this wonderful session. It has been really something good. So, and for everything.
Good afternoon. My name is Watata Moses, a student of Mahai. I worked as a clerk, and allow me read the following resolutions of our motions. Our first motion, the resolutions were the government has to put a number of institutions we are aiming to scale up youth. We are aiming to scale up the youth. The second one, working conditions and increments in the wage bill. The third one, challenging the ideology of the mindset change. The fourth one, marketing of ourselves, doing things that make us extraordinary from other people. Adding value to ourselves by putting love in whatever we do. Then the second motion, the physical and social support through counseling programs. The second motion was urging government to create special support project for the reintegration of teenage mothers in the community and education systems. Then our resolutions were physical and social support through counseling programs. The second, putting or setting up income generating opportunities to raise funds both for their education and children. And the third one, offering scholarship to the teenage mothers so that they don't sit home idle. The next one, government should put strict laws about tribalism and segregation. Then our third motion was to increase the education budget allocations for education in Eastern Uganda. Our first resolution was restriction that whatever is for the school should not be shared by the leaders. The second one, the government should reduce on the number of salaries and the ministers in order to put some money in education sector. Then the third one, let the government leave the government education to be free. Then the fourth one, the government should be able to follow up where the money is being allocated and set strict rules on how the money is being spent. Then our fourth motion was to urge government to invest in solutions that mitigate the effects of climate change in Eastern Uganda. Then the first resolution was to put on crops that can plant the crops that are resistant. Then the second, sensitizing the community about the dangers of deforestation. Then the third one, the government should have clear resolution about wetlands. Then the first one, the government should put value in food grown and industrialization. Those were the resolutions of our motions.
Thank you so much, dear clerk, for the resolutions. They were loud and clear. And before I adjourn this house, I would love to give my closing remarks. I want to thank members of this august house for the great deliberations shared and for everything that you have put in place and for the motions that we have so far passed. I realize that a motion on teenage pregnancy and a motion on mitigating of climate change was really elaborate and people still had enough to say. That means before adjournment. Okay. So I realize that these two motions, the one on teenage mothers and the one on mitigating climate change, were so pertinent to this house, and we would pray that if we could adopt all these motions, especially this motion, and carry it on to the National Youth Parliament, that later on it can become a policy that can help us combat the evils that are happening in this society. Thank you so much again for this opportunity, and it's been a great experience. So, let us, yes, my clerk has an information.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Before adjournment, kindly allow me invite a representative from Action Aid to have their closing remarks.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker, and our esteemed clerks for a job wonderfully done. But also I want to congratulate you for being elected. Thank you for that applause for the Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, honorable members, my name is David Nyaribi. In the youth circles, I am also known as the Ambassador of Possibilities, because I always aspire to speak and inspire the young people, but also even the old ones, that it is possible. And among them is your dream, but also the changing of the community in a positive way. I work with ActionAid under the global platform as a leadership and governance specialist, but I also support on a project called GOLD,
which is global organizing and leadership development. And I also support the Activista Network. I am mentioning all these categories so that you can be able to identify entry points as we go along. I am extremely appreciative to the partners. ActionAid is one of the partners, but this engagement and the engagements that we have had already in Pakwach, Monday in Gulu, and today here would have not been possible without our wonderful partners. One of them being the European Union, GIZ, UAF, like you have heard from them, their representatives are here. Vijana Corps, that has also mobilized from this particular region. Mbale City Council, you were able to see the RCC here, who was also able to inspire you into the institution of marriage. But of course, Faraja Africa Foundation, who are the chief organizers of this regional youth parliament, but will proceed to organize the national youth parliament. But all this would be vanity without the honorable members. So I want to ask that you applaud yourselves with a stamp for being here today, and especially for braving the Elgon weather that was presented to us this morning. ActionAid and other partners have convened this parliament for a number of years, and it is an important space, very paramount and key to amplifying the voices of young people. And it is amazing that the parliament is able to leave the national stage and begin in the regions, so that it is a bottom-up approach. So all the regions will be covered, just like our convener, Faraja Africa Foundation, they have already mentioned. And it is to be able to bring issues from the regions, but give them a national outlook, and later on give them a regional and global outlook. So these youth parliaments begin in the regions like we are now, and of course there will be a national one, but as you all know, with the constraints of resources and other factors, not everybody from the regions can be able to go there, but your issues are strictly and positively represented there. And then of course the regional, and then at some point the global stage. One of the aspects that ActionAid International does, and in support with other partners, is training on leadership. And I would not forgive myself if I left the stage without talking a little bit about leadership in the time that we have, Madam Speaker. The kind of leadership that we are advancing and encouraging is known, and you must have heard about it already, but maybe we shall now encourage you to practice it more. It is known as servant leadership, that fronts aspects like service above self, that advances integrity. And when you talk about integrity, the country is indeed vibrating with deficiency of the same. When we are talking about corruption, not just within parliament, maybe that is what has been highlighted, but also other layers and strata of the system and the functionalities of government, but also within our individual spaces and the different areas that we have jurisdiction over. So servant leadership is what we are encouraging. And I am happy that among the issues that you have been articulating from morning into the afternoon have spoken to some of the aspects that we are calling for servant leadership. But I want also to congratulate you, especially in regard to the motions, even as I talk about servant leadership. You talked about aspects of unemployment, and we know some of the causes, and we must jointly together be able to craft solutions so that we can tackle this. You talked about the aspect of teenage mothers, and I just want to highlight that some of these issues are derivative. Some aspects lead to the same. So for example, not going to school or not having enough information,
not talking about aspects of peer pressure, lead to the aspects of teenage mothers. But thirdly, you also talked about increase for the budget, especially for education. But this can only happen where there is prioritization. And I am happy that one of the youngsters from the secondary school talked about austerity, that we need to reduce expenditure in particular sectors, maybe that are also good, but not urgent and important, and then be able to expend money in areas that are urgent and important. But last but not least, you strongly touched my heart and positively shook ActionAid when you talked about climate change. This is not only a local, national, but it's a global issue. And it is as urgent as you can imagine. Because whatever we have talked about before climate change, if we do not do something about climate change, then we will not be around to do anything about the others. So this is very, very, very urgent. And each one of us can have a role to play in making sure that we attain climate justice, asking the global north to reduce emissions, but also to reduce or stop industrial agriculture as we advance alternative and renewable energy like solar, wind energy, but also adopting agroecology, using our indigenous knowledge to be able to support ourselves. The North was strongly talking about food security, but I'm sure it's also an issue here, though the regions are prioritizing because we do not have time on the key issues that they would want to work on. As I finish, this being a youth space, I will finish by giving us two principles. I am sure some of you have come across these principles. One of them is the Pareto principle, or sometimes that you call 80-20 rule. With the constraint of resources, especially money and time, but also with the many distractions and engagements that we need to have, we need to be able to prioritize. So I was able to tell the youth of northern Uganda in Gulu, covering Noya, Padera, Gago, that we must be able to identify the key issues that we want to work on as young people. Yes, everything is good, but we must start somewhere. So this principle comes into play, and it is a simple principle. It basically states that 80% of the consequences are a result of 20% of the causes. So the person that concentrates on the 20% is able to attain much, much more. It speaks to the aspect that the relationship between inputs and outputs is not balanced. I know it rhymes very well with the Luganda saying, and allow me say it here in this August house, allow me use the vernacular, that take a sente wolaba in the right space. But that is about money, but I want to also ask you about time. The RCC here, while he was very comic and humorous in his speech, he also talked about harnessing the digital abilities, so that we use social media to benefit us and not basically to just take our time. The last principle is the 101% principle, as advanced by John C. Maxwell. He says that you can do anything, but you cannot do everything. And many young people are taken up by doing everything. Because when you're youthful, you have the energy, you have the time. Maybe you're only limited by the resource of money. But you cannot do everything. You can do anything, but not everything. So John C. Maxwell advances and says, choose the 1%, just the one, and then give it 100% of your effort and time. 1% is big. So basically, you prioritize what you want to work on. Once again, I congratulate you for your robust discussions and engagements. And I want to once again thank the partners, GIZ, European Union, Vijana Co, Mbale Municipal Council. We have our inspectors of schools here. The young people from the schools, Faraja Africa Foundation, led by Shalom and Team Edna. Those that I've not mentioned, they are the ones that I love most. But the entire team. but it would have not been possible or even feasible without you. So to also congratulate you and appreciate you for coming, and to give a blessing to our speaker that as you go to the national, why not contest? I've been saying this everywhere. The one who will take it most will be the one to become the national speaker. So thank you very much. And the parliament is being adjourned, meaning that these conversations can continue. I know you could be there saying, we didn't have enough time. You will never have enough time. You only need to prioritize and hit the targets quickly. So please continue these conversations. The motions were very rich, and they are still very rich. Continue this on social media, continue this in your spaces of engagement, such that we can make Uganda better. It is the young people, I can assure you. It is the young people, because we are here today and will be here tomorrow. Thank you very much for God and my country.
Faraja Africa Foundation and her partners organized the East African Youth Parliament in 2018, following the establishment of the East African Community, which comprises of 7 member states, that is Burundi, Rwanda, Kenya, South Sudan, Tanzania, Uganda, and the recently added Democratic Republic of Congo.
Well, my name is Mbale Lugome. I'm first speaker of East African Youth Legislative Assembly. When you talk about the East African Youth Parliaments, and since I was the first speaker, I traveled all the 6 countries by bus. I met a lot of young people. I got a big connection with them. So that's really inspired me that what am I going to do after finishing being a speaker? So being a partner was the first thing I was looking to partner with Faraja and continuing supporting young people. And actually, we did it. We started advocating for the post-parliament agendas.
The East African Youth Parliament, also known as the Vijana Assembly, is a platform that provides young people with a dedicated space to participate in regional governance, advocate for youth issues, and contribute to the development and integration of the East African community.
What sparks your participation in the East African Youth Parliament?
Okay, I'm passionate about East Africa. I'm a Pan-Africanist, and I love having that nationalism, especially East Africa. Like how they say, Africa is our business. To me, East Africa is my business.
An important thing to note about this year is that for the first time we have DRC on board, and Chris is not only the representative from DRC, but also the clerk for the 5th East African Youth Parliament.
I've learned so much from them, and one thing is for sure, the future of East Africa, as one of the honorable said, is in safe hands. Learning about integration and how we as youth could benefit, on some of the things going on in the YALA as an institution, but also how do we get more, Congolese youth mostly to join this movement and help advance the region of East Africa community as a whole.
The sexual reproductive health bill is pertinent to major issues concerning sexual education, issues concerning reproductive health, issues concerning the rights of people generally, inherently rights such as abortion, rights on segregative mothers, and all those, without forgetting menstrual health and hygiene.
When we look at East Africa in general, we are really blessed with abundant resources, especially agricultural resources. But the agricultural resources are not utilized economically and sustainably in East Africa. And that's why I raised that motion to urge the young people to really engage in the agricultural business. So we need to understand, especially the young people, they need to know that agriculture is the backbone of Africa in general.
We started advocating for African Charter on Democracy, Election and Governance. but also we were also advocating for South Sudanese to enter to Tanzania without paying visa. At that time, it was just like recently they were entering to the community, and still the young people from South Sudan, when they came to Tanzania, were entering by paying visa. So also we advocated for it, and that was the best practices.
The East African Youth Parliament, also known as the Vijana Assembly, is a platform that provides young people with a dedicated space to participate in regional governance, advocate for youth issues, and contribute to the development and integration of the East African community.
This is majorly a learning place. The more we present ideas here, we are grooming a leader.
This East African Youth Parliament occurs every year in November. It brings members, youth from member states, the 7 member states of East Africa, that is South Sudan, Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, DRC, Rwanda, and Burundi.
I see myself as at the place that I feel I can speak for my people. Like our country is among of the country that is in the integration of East African community. So as I'm here, I see myself as a representative for others who didn't make it here.
The East African Youth Parliament being diverse, being a body that, or a platform that gathers different youth from different countries, 7 of them from the 7 member countries. Then when we talk about inclusivity, on my own side, I just look at how do we bring everyone together? How do we get to harmonize their voices?
Faraja has been doing this for the past 6 years, and we can see that there have been some improvement in each and every year that we come for the sitting. First of all, it's the choice of the motion. Second of all, it's the choice of the people who participate in this youth parliament. You can see that the youth are eagerly and are very much willing to air out their views, and they have researched what they are saying. They are not just here for propaganda or just speaking out of nowhere.
This is my first time actually attending the 6th East African Youth Parliament. I got to learn a lot, getting together as youth, discussing what we're facing and being able to navigate and being able to discuss our problems and how to go about them.
During the proceedings of the 6th East African Youth Parliament in 2023, young people engaged in substantive discussions encompassing a spectrum of motions aimed at fortifying governance structures within the East African community. The motions included fostering the economic integration of youth, advancing initiatives related to sexual reproductive health, promoting regional peace and security, and advocating for heightened environmental sustainability within the EAC.
Motion number 1 was about implementing the East African integration and its governance. Now that, for me, it has been delayed a lot. I feel like it should have been done yesterday, and the fact that we had opportunity to discuss it here, I think maybe we shall be able to steer it. We were speaking about how the governance of East African community can take place very quickly. Now, I feel if at all this region is governing itself as a region and not just like countries, we would save lots of monies in administration.
Within this assembly, the youth formulated several recommendations and issued a collective appeal to their respective governments and authoritative figures, urging concerted efforts to better the well-being of the populace in the region.
Of course, yeah, I agree 100%, just because East Africa is people, and among the people it is, there is a big percentage is the youth. So it is all about the activity that the integration is about us. So we have to take part, we have to take a role in order to make this integration be beneficial to everyone,
Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, South Sudan, Congo, all of them have embassies in most of these countries. But if at all we were one region and we have just one governance, would have one embassy, and that all that money that is being spent in about 7 embassies, that would be just one. But also lots of things that are being different. We could pick what is better in Tanzania, pick what is better in Uganda, Kenya, and all of it is together. We are only picking the good, and we have one government of many good things.
My experience was quite amazing, meeting people from different countries, exchanging ideas, engaging and debating as well.
Today, I must say I'm elated, I'm grateful and happy for being newly elected as the Speaker for the East African Youth Parliament. It is a great mantle, it is a big office, and all I can pledge is to work hand in hand with all the different speakers from all the different East African states that have their speakers, to have us work together and put together the different resolutions.
Of particular significance was the acknowledgement that inadequate governance stands as a formidable challenge confronting East African communities, thereby exacerbating more intricate issues within the region. Consequently, the youth underscored the imperative of instituting good governance as a fundamental measure, asserting that this represents the inaugural stride toward effecting positive transformations within the East African context.
The same challenges they have announced, they have been campaigning, the same complaints they have are exactly the same challenges, the same complaints that we have as YELA5. So it's a pleasure for me to announce it officially that we'll have to find a way to work more closely than this youth parliament.
Whenever issues of young people are not spoken out by young people themselves, they don't necessarily get audience.
This being the 6th edition of the National Youth Parliament, organized by Faraja Africa Foundation.
Yeah.
As always, the drill is you have the regional parliaments where youth get to debate on various issues. So how were the regional parliaments of this year?
Well, quite interesting. They were bigger compared to last year. Remember, because last year we still had COVID, that was, sketchy. This time around, we had bigger numbers and we had wider participation.
This year's Central Regional Youth Parliament has been an interesting one, where I've had young people come together and deliberate on issues that are actually pressing us.
We are given those spaces to exercise and also give out our views to those local governments. We will try until Jesus comes back.
So far, this is the first youth parliament I've attended. Physically, I had attended the virtual one in 2021, but it has been a beautiful experience. A lot of brilliant people to meet, seeing the youth passionate about the matters of the country.
I think each year that gets by, the youth parliament becomes more interesting and it gets better. It's a very enriching experience to see young people debate on pertinent issues that affect them in society. It's a blessing to tap into their cups of wisdom because, they give us a fresh feel of what is going on at the grassroots, where we might not be able as leaders to reach on a daily. So young people's advocacy, strengthening the youth voice, is a platform that we really need to fully utilize, and the youth parliament offers it on a silver platter.
The question the youth are asking out there, How do you choose this member of parliament to come on the floor of parliament?
Okay, for starters, it is always a competitive process, that is for a fact. But in the competition, we look at leaders, young emerging leaders, who have hands-on skills, who have done something, and we also give a lot of consideration to the leaders from the grassroots, because given our development approach, we're using a bottom-top approach. I don't want to lie to you that I'm going to go and pick someone that has been in power for some time, that is exposed already. No, we want that person who has not been here one time, or that person who is able to talk, who is able to speak. And of course, while we're doing that, we consider